Hey guys, Spider2B here, and today Luna is back in red. She's back in red. And she's also back to cement the new Nihil element, but I'm be real, I'm just gonna call it the Void element because I'm more used to calling it Void, but Nihil Void is the same thing, alright? I'm just gonna call it Void. Luna Oblivion is PGR's first Void / Nihil S-Rank Annihilator class Omniframe, paving the way for essentially a new elemental team. And if you guys found this video helpful, drop a like, subscribe for more guides, and I'll try to answer any questions in the comments. And you guys want to see these guides early or ask questions live, join us here on twitch.tv/Spider2B. You can be in the chat like right here. And also, please check the pinned comments for any updates or corrections because I'm doing this live and I'm a human, so I do make mistakes sometimes. And I'll cover her playstyle rotation, rank upgrades, weapons, builds, team setup, her cub, and my poll and build recommendations in this video, and timestamps will be provided as usual. A quick rundown on the Void or Nihil element. Basically, if you're a veteran player and you remember this Uniframe or basically these Transcendents, basically the forgotten characters that we used to use to deplete the gauge or execution. For newer players, these enemies used to have these orange execution bars, and basically in order to do like full damage or execute them, we would have to attack them with certain units to drain the execution bar, and then we could execute them, right? So Nihil kind of works the same way. It's kind of similar, but not quite. Enemies will have this void bar, as you can see here, this purple bar here. It's pretty similar, minus the execution part. Void enemies will mostly appear in Warzone. Paincage doesn't have any pure void weak enemy yet, at least so far in CN. So basically, attacking on Teddy, Luna Oblivion, or attacking with anyone on Luna's team will deplete the void bar. So you can see here, I'm doing my like attacks or whatever, and you can see the gauge kind of like start draining when I'm attacking it. This is due to Luna's Annihilator class passive, which converts all the teammates' damage and elemental shred from like their sets or from their abilities to shred Void or Nihil. So as you can see here, now that we've shredded the Void bar, we can start to do real damage to the enemy, right? Basically, if you don't deplete this bar, you can still do damage, but it's very slow. And once the Void bar is depleted, you can just go ham on it. You don't have to take 16 years to beat up the enemy. Just TLDR, Luna is basically a new element. She's a Void element. You see Void enemies in Warzone, you use Luna and her team to beat them up. There's no special mechanic or whatever. It's just have Luna on the team, have her exist in the team. She basically plays very similar to Alpha Crimson Weave. You want to basically use your orbs to build stacks, and then you consume those stacks when you ult to do big damage. This rotation will be with Luna with her double S and her 6-star signature weapon. You'll need her 6-star signature weapon to do 2 rotations because it gives kind of a similar effect to the old Luna, where if you do a 3-orb ping, the next ping will be an automatic matrix ping. So we're going to start by swapping in and then using a matrix ping. As you can see here, it filled up the gauge, so now the gauge is full. And then we have a number here at the bottom left corner. These are her stacks, which is indicated by that white number there. So we want to hold and release basic attack. These will prep the stacks, so the 60 will become red. Think of it similar to Alpha Crimson Weave. So now the stacks are prepped, and we want to use her ult. And then use 2 matrix pings. So 1, 2. And this will fill her gauge to max, so that's the full red bar here. And we want to hold and release basic attack. And this gives her the maximum amount of stacks. Then we ult. And it will consume all the stacks to do big damage. And with double S and her weapon, you have enough orbs to do 2 rotations. So as long as you weave in basic attacks in between, don't forget to do that. You can do a 3-orb ping here, and then a matrix ping. And then now her gauge is full. You start it all over again. Hold and release basic attack to prep the stacks. Now stacks are prepped, use your ult. Matrix ping, gauge is full again. Hold and release basic attack. Ult. And you can use your QTEs and stuff here. And that's how you Luna. If you have deadline timing resonance, you can do an additional core rotation before swapping off. So you can do 3 total rotations if you have deadline timing. But otherwise, you just do 2 with her signature weapon, or 1 if you don't have it. And it's very, very important to weave in basic attacks to maintain orb uptime, because otherwise you might run out of orbs, might not have enough stacks, might not have energy for ultimate. In Warzone, you actually usually start with Uncle Watanabe to clear the initial few waves before you swap to Luna. I'll talk about this more in the team rotation section, but usually you do about 1 ult rotation or 2 ult rotations with Watanabe, and then you go into Luna and you start pounding in on all of the enemies. Same rotation as mentioned before, fill the gauge, prep the stacks, use your ult, 2 matrix pings, ult and release basic attack, and then you just ult with QTEs and nuke the wave. And then you have the signature weapon, you do it again, and you have deadline, you do it another rotation after that. So for example here is our second rotation. As you can see here, I'm weaving in basic attacks to make sure I have enough orbs. So that's the second rotation here. So if you don't have deadline, you swap right here. But if you do have deadline, which is shown in this video, you can weave in a third rotation, right? And you go into Watanabe, and then you do your 2 ult rotations on Watanabe before you swap back to Luna. Liv Imperia doesn't really see that much field time because she's usually not the damage dealer, but you guys kind of get the gist. We have the don't talk to me or my daughter moment ever again, you know? There's also some relevant animation cancels that you can do with Luna to speed up her rotation. Since Luna's main damage is her ultimate, you want to usually get to that ASAP, and sometimes that's all you need to just wipe out an enemy. So for example here, after you do a 3 orb or matrix ping, you can dodge right after to animation cancel it because the damage for the orb doesn't really matter as much, especially if you're just trying to get to the ultimate. So for example, I did 3 orb ping and then I dodged right after, right? You don't have to sit through the entire spin animation. And another thing is that you can also animation cancel with the ultimate. When you do the hold and release basic attack, you can tap ultimate during that animation, so you don't have to wait for the entire animation, and you can just get to her ult. So I'll show it right here. So hold release, and then just kind of enter her ult here. So don't wait for her to land on the ground if you're just trying to get to her ultimate as quickly as possible. And again here, right, I'm using 3 orb pings. I can just dodge right after. So I fill up the gauge without having to wait for the entire orb animation. So this is what happens if you do like all the animation cancels just to get to her ult as quickly as possible, which is useful for like Paincage, or I guess in general if you don't really care about the orb damage. So we're going to swap in 3 orb ping, dodge, hold release, matrix dodge, hold release, ult, like that. That way you get to the ultimate as quickly as possible, do the damage as quickly as possible, save time on your timer, get a better score. She does have another alternate form, so I'll showcase it real quick here. It's a little bit less relevant, but you still use it in certain situations. After you prep the stacks, instead of tapping ult, you hold ult. Showcase here, so we'll swap, fill the gauge, right? And then we'll prep the stacks. But instead of tapping ult, we're gonna hold it here. And what it does is it max fills her gauge and her 300 stacks. And then you can hold and release basic attack, and that does a lot of damage. It doesn't max out her ult all the way, but it does a lot of damage. And you usually use this for Paincage to burst down bosses, but other than that, it's not really relevant. She does get the, basically like those annihilation orbs she plays, but the hold ult, she kind of plays like the old Luna. So I'll do it again here. Prep stacks, hold and release, hold ult. So if I do basic attacks, right, I get these kind of like annihilation orbs. So if you wanted to ult in this form, you have to have the basic attack and use those orbs a bit, and then you can ult. So lesser used, but it is effective in things like Paincage. So as you can see here, we use the hold ult, and then we instantly go into the hold and release basic attack. And that attack with the QTEs just nuked the boss. So that was Hamlet gone in like 0.0 seconds. So in terms of Paincage, you use it sometimes for kind of weaker Paincage bosses, and it's pretty effective in just nuking the boss. Luna will become the fastest Paincage clearer out of all the units. As long as the boss is not weak to a certain element, you're using Hamlet or the Shark, she just nukes it. So in this rotation here, the Shark's a little bit more tanky, so we do the full ult, right, the normal rotation. Use the ult. And then we're like, okay, and then now it's a little bit weak, so we just go ahead and use the fast ult and finish, right? Something like that. So you can use a combination of both if you really want to. If it's like the first stage of the Paincage boss, it's really, really easy to just use that hold ult and just nuke them. So here we use the hold nuke, or the hold ult, and it's gone, right? Easy clap. And that's just double S Luna. Like we're not even touching triple S. That's just double S Luna. And some other notes to consider. Usually when you use the double QTEs, release. So right around here is when you use the when I'm doing this attack. That's when I'm using the QTEs. Otherwise, you can wait for when she flies up to use the QTEs as well, if you want to just have it all in the ult. But that final hold and release basic attack in her domain is pretty strong. And usually the QTEs last long enough. Usually you want to get to her second ultimate, that's her main damage. For the most part, pretty simple to play. She's kind of like Alpha Crimson Weave, but you don't have to deal with as many mechanics. There's some other things that are like less relevant. If you really wanted to, instead of filling the gauge with your orbs, you can hold basic attack to kind of prep. And you can do that as well if you really wanted to. If you want to save some orbs, you can do it that way. You don't hit max stacks. You can see we're at 270 stacks there instead of 300. So it's less damage, but technically you could do it. If you're short on orbs, and you don't really care about the max damage, you just want to get to the ult, you could do that. At S5, basically double QTE on her ults and hold basic attack. Pretty normal S5 upgrade. Double S procs Matrix on ult and increases her damage. That's her recommended stopping point for proper rotations. Having that extra Matrix helps a lot to maintain those 2 ult rotations with double S in her weapon or 3 with deadline timing. And double S3 increases her ult damage. It also gives more stacks on her hold basic attack when she dodges. And also she has more annihilation orbs when she dodges. So kind of similar to the way that the old Luna worked. Not a crazy strong upgrade and not really needed. The ult damage increase is decent, but it's honestly not really worth the upgrade in my opinion. So Luna's triple S, basically you get extra stacks. So you generate stacks twice as fast. The stacks are double to 600, so you can see here. More sustained and burst ult damage after annihilation orbs, and she also shreds void bar faster than previous ranks. It's just a good general damage increase, and if you're a whale, it's a pretty good upgrade. And triple S3 is also a decent upgrade as well because it buffs her ult damage, which is her main damage as well. So overall, double S for the minimum investment for proper use. Double S3 is not really super worth in my opinion. It's a very minor quality of life upgrade. Triple S is the most value for heavy spenders, and triple S3 if you're big a Gnar whale. In terms of Luna, you want to prioritize her weapon and weapon resonance over her double S3. Her 5-star weapon is a little less comfortable to play since you lose out on the extra 3 orb ping and stack generation that the 6-star weapon passive gets. So again, the 6-star weapon, every time you do a 3 orb ping, the next ping after is guaranteed to be a matrix ping, and you don't get that with the 5-star weapon. So for example, if I try to do the same rotation again, one, I'm a little bit less gauge as you can see there. So I would need like extra 3 orb pings just to fill that up, or I need to hold and release basic attack just to fill it. Once it's full, I got enough for about 1 ult rotation. Still hit the max 300 stacks though, and I can ult. As you can see here, after we do that, we're out of orbs. We're gonna have to need to swap. Her 5-star weapon is usable, but it's just not as comfortable as her 6-star weapon. And you also don't have access to deadline timing and the 6-star weapon passive. So after 1 rotation, you need to swap to Watanabe to do his ult rotation, whatever. We swapped to her 6-star weapon here. This is without deadline timing. You can immediately tell the difference where like she's not off gauge and she's not off stacks. So it's max there. You can easily do more than 1 rotation, right? As long as you weave in basic attacks, you're set for more than 1 rotation. We got enough for another one, right? Let me just continue on. TLDR, 5-star weapon, it's playable, but you have a slower damage single rotation. Her 6-star weapon, she can form about 2 rotations consistently. 3rd rotation is maybe possible by weaving in basic attacks, but it's a bit awkward. If you want to maximize her damage, I highly recommend deadline timing, especially for longer fights. She's very orb hungry, so if you want to do multiple rotations, deadline timing helps a lot. You can swap this to Glorious Afterglow if you don't need it for like Paincage, and Incandescence can be her 3rd resonance if you have 3 resonance on her. But again, weapon resonance is not required for her to function. You can just have her 6-star weapon, no 6-star weapon resonance, and you'll be chilling. For builds, you always want to run her 4-piece signature set Cleopatra for her kit-specific damage multipliers, as she's the main Nihil or Void DPS. 2-piece Caudy will also be her set always for faster ultimates, and that's the majority of her damage anyways. And you want to harmonize, then of course harmonize with 4-piece Caudy. And yeah, that's basically her only build for like every rank. There's not really much to swap her out with. Usually if you run the 4-piece elemental set, it's usually on the team and supports, not on her. As for resonance, for Luna, you want plus 15 attack on the top row and ultimate on the bottom row because that's most of her damage. Hypertune slots 4, 5, and 6 first, 1, 2, and 3 afterwards. Infinite Toss Awaken doesn't really matter which orb you start out with. You're gonna orb cancel anyways, so just any orb there. And if you're in the super early game and you don't have access to the event shop yet, maybe 4-piece 2-piece Mozart probably, but honestly just clear chapter 2, 3, get access to the event shop so you can go ahead and buy whatever memory set you need. As for team setups, for the most part, Luna will be doing most of the cooking as she demands the field time. With Luna's class passive, again, any tank or amplifier or support will work with her since she converts their elemental shred to void. So for example, if we run 4-piece Shakespeare on Watanabe, that fire resist shred gets converted into nihil or void resist shred, but it will have the same effect. Again, you want one of her teammates to be capable of being a sub DPS and covering for her orb downtime because Luna will eventually run out of orbs, even with deadline timing, even with double S. She can max out 3, maybe 4 rotations, and then it kind of gets sketchy and dodgy with the amount of orbs that she has. So she's gonna have to swap off. That's the reason why currently the fire team is best due to Watanabe's damage, shred, and orb uptime. He can do 2 ult rotations, and that's perfect rotation timing for Luna to swap back in and start a rotation again. And along with Leap, Liv, and Imperia's buffs, they can kind of cover for each other. Basically, fire is her most optimal team at the moment, but technically you can swap out any attacker in any existing meta team, depending on which team you have more invested, and just put Luna there. So as long as Luna is the leader for the void damage buff, and then whatever Da Vinci support as the starter, you can stick Luna basically anywhere. So for example, maybe you have an invested dark team, right? Instead of having like Lamia, you stick in Luna, and then there's your void team if you don't have the fire team built. You'll want Uncle Watanabe on 4-piece Alphanos and 4-piece Shakespeare, only if he has deadline timing. So my Watanabe has deadline timing here, so he's running the 4-piece Shakespeare to be his Alphanos, and that gives him more shred as well as letting him do damage. But if you don't have deadline timing on him, it's fine to just run the Caudy set, so 2-piece Caudy, that still works. And then resonance on there can be either his ult or his class skill. Liv Amp, she's getting elite, so you can now run her on 4-piece Da Vinci, 2-piece Einstein. She'll still be supporting the team with the set, and then you can harmonize 2-piece Guinevere, and then you want to resonate class skill here if you have the extra resonance. Best used with the deer pet as well for the extra orbs, so that will be kind of like the standard mainstay team. And as for Paincage, since Watanabe will also no longer be doing damage, you want to switch to a 2-2-2 set on Liv. So you can run 2-piece Samantha, 2-piece Gloria, 2-piece Guinevere here. Harmonization will be Guinevere again, so you have the 4-piece Guinevere set, a full debuff set, and Watanabe, Unk, yo, he about to go to Da Vinci, man. He about to become a Da Vinci bot. You don't need to resonate this per se, but especially if you have them harmonized, you can have 4-piece Shakespeare, 4-piece Da Vinci to fully support Luna, because again, there's no Watanabe in this gameplay, right? It's all Luna. Luna's doing all the damage. She's the one that's carrying the team. There's no real reason to swap to Watanabe. So because of that, Watanabe will be on Da Vinci set. And again, you can resonate tank class skill here if you have the extra resources. As for budget team, again, the main core member is Luna. Luna will convert anyone to a void team. It doesn't matter. So basically, you can just run any tank that you want in here. It doesn't have to be Watanabe. Ideally, it's someone that can sub DPS, but you just want to make sure that whatever tank you use, so for example, let's say the dark team, right, with Karenina here, you just want to make sure that Karenina has the 4-piece elemental shred, so 4-piece Bathlon in her case. If it's ice, then 4-piece Chen Juen on the tank, just Da Vinci on the support, right? And that lets any team basically be a void team as long as you have Luna there. So Luna is very easy to build, and honestly, she's probably one of the best beginner units just because she doesn't really care what teammate she has because they're her teammates. She'll make them her teammates. As for Luna's pet, Dragon Griffin, I guess, its active skill is just kind of a slow damage, kind of like void burn almost. Nothing too crazy for the active skill. It's just an alright pet. I don't know if it's really super worth pulling. The main thing is that the pet buffs the damage multipliers for her stacks, so that's the most important utility that it brings. But otherwise, it's just a slow in a damage, and it's not super worth. So it's an easy skip for free to play or monthly pack only, and it's a decent but optional pickup for battle pass and monthly pack players. Not an essential pet if you don't have the spear tickets to pull. The weapon is a much higher priority than the pet. Luna is the void team. She does prefer having someone to cover her downtime when she does eventually run out of orbs. That's where Uncle Watanabe really gets a higher increase in value, just because he's right now currently like one of the best sub DPSs in the game. He's a tank, but he can also do a lot of damage. In general, Teddy, basically, which I'll cover in a second, the new A-rank Teddy introduces a way to deal damage with the void bar, but Luna was made to annihilate it, right? Like, she's the premier Paincage DPS, and she dumps so much damage so quickly, so she'll become probably the fastest clearing unit for most Paincage bosses that don't have elemental weaknesses, and she's basically a guaranteed annihilation of one boss in Paincage every week. And because of that, she's an overall ideal starter unit for most newer players, or to potentially pick up later from the one-time beginner selector in the standard banner. Overall, I would say that she's pretty close to a must-pull unit, basically the only character that can deal with void bars quickly for a long while, until Ishmael probably, and Teddy is very Hope in comparison. So I would try to grab Luna Oblivion first, and then grab her weapon in double S, her weapon when you can afford it, and the pet isn't really super necessary. Yeah, that's pretty much Luna Oblivion without entering the skill description void. You did not need to cook that long of a description, Kuro. They keep just one-upping the length of their PGR essays. I don't know who reads all that. So basically, she's gotten a pretty nice quality of life upgrade. So she basically gets more ultimate energy, more overall damage, faster orb pings. So you can kind of chain them super, super quickly. You also get an automatic orb rearrange, which is very nice. And her ultimate animation is a lot faster. And she gets this rain void fire cloud that basically provides off-field shred. So your Einstein elemental shred uptime will be a lot longer. Overall, a very, very, very worthwhile upgrade for her leap. If you do have to swap her in field, which usually you don't, but if you do have to swap her in, her rotation is just a lot faster. And since she's now used for the fire team and for the void team as the ideal unit, it's just a very worthwhile upgrade. And somehow she's like the oldest amplifier in the game, and Kuro still hasn't replaced her yet in future versions for like the foreseeable future. So I don't know, maybe Liv is like Kuro's favorite child, low-key. That's crazy, man. I think that I made that guide video like forever ago, and it's still being viewed to this day just because she's still relevant for so long. And again, like all leap upgrades, her shards will be added to the battle pass voucher shop, so you can bring her to triple S and buff the team even more. Feature spider here. The stream explanation for the A ranks was a bit scuffed, so I'm gonna try to re-record it again real quick. Again, I won't fully cover A ranks since they're not really meta relevant, especially with the accelerated schedule. The resources are probably better spent on S rank units, but I can go over them real quick. Starting with Teddy, she's a dark support with some slight void shred, coming out around the same time as Void Luna, so she's not really relevant, but she is free. Playstyle is mostly 3 orb ping spam, so you do 3 orb ping, 3 orb ping, 3 orb ping. Use your Teddy orb, and then you hold and release basic attack to fill your bottom power gauge here. Then you want to hold ult. Same thing, 3 orb ping, 3 orb ping, 3 orb ping, Teddy orb, hold release basic attack. And then you basically just keep doing this until this ult goes into flashing. And you get the proper ult. And that's how you Teddy. You mainly want to swap her in so you don't have to use so many 3 orb pings. In reality, she's kind of just a poor man's Luna Oblivion, or technically a Vera Rosen alternative, but Vera Rosen, most people already have her invested at least to triple S. She's not really that much of an upgrade, if an upgrade at all. Not really worth investing, but if you want to build her up, you can use 4-piece Bathlon, 2-piece Guinevere, or a 4-piece Da Vinci set. Same thing as Vera Rosen, just transfer over her set if you want to use her. Unlike Luna Oblivion, she does not convert her teammates into void damage, so only she can shred the void bar. So again, budget Luna, budget Vera Rosen, that's basically just Teddy, but she's fun. Next up, we have Bridget, our first A-rank fire tank. So now Fire Shred is available to everyone, but coming out after Watanabe Epitaph, Nanamek, or even the OG Nanami Pulse, Bridget is not really worth investing in if you already picked any of those up and have built them. She runs the same 4-piece Shakespeare, 2-piece Einstein, or 4-piece Da Vinci sets though. I invested in her anyways just because she's hot and fun to play with her blue into red orb deflex. So basically how she works is I'll throw this blue orb out, and then I'll hit blue orb again and then hit dodge when the blue orb is about to hit me to kind of deflect it back. So for veteran players, think of it kind of like how pull-out works. So I'll do blue dodge, and you see here I built up the gauge. And now once you have some gauge built, what you want to do is you want to do a blue into red. So same thing, but instead of hitting dodge, you hit red. Blue orb red. And you can tell you did it right because you'll hear the sound effect there. I'll do it one more time. Blue orb red. And then now once you have the charges built, so you can see at the bottom right there, the stacks or charges, we'll use our ult to consume them and do damage. And that's how you Bridget. And yeah, that's basically Bridget. She's mostly a QTE bot if you're using any other fire DPS, but please, Kuro, give me a S Bridget. Her design is peak. Other than that, 2 A ranks, not super worth investing in, but if you like their characters, you like their playstyles, then go ahead and go for it, but focus on the S ranks. This is Luna's patch for the most part. Going into the Lunar New Year, we're going to be getting a free selector up to Isla, and for pickup priority, basically if you have none of these characters, so Balter, picking her up is probably a good idea because she's still meta relevant for physical teams, even as a sub DPS for Han Ying and in the future for slash damage, but we will be getting a free copy of her during her leap. In the future, we'll be getting a free copy, so getting her to double S is nice. We also have Karenina kind of in a similar situation. She's getting a leap in the future as well, which will give her a free copy, but she will be used in the ionization team, so she'll have another use as well, and pretty nice for the dark team. Still meta relevant for a while. Liv Imperia, if you don't have her, is probably the highest value pickup actually from the selector if you don't have her already, just because she's used in 2 teams. She still hasn't been replaced by anyone, so if you don't have her, very, very high pickup priority, maybe the highest out of all the characters. Garnet has a strong leap, but less of a priority because she's replacing the future. Richo, same thing, replacing the future, but if you have her close to triple S, it might be nice to pick her up, but if you're not even close to double S yet, and you can maybe just skip out still. I don't think the rest of the characters are arguably worth it. Piper Lee gets replaced. He gets replaced and he has no use outside of that replacement, whereas Bolter has the affix and Karenina has the affix for future affix teams, which I'll cover later on in another guide. Chrome is getting outdated in the next patch for Wansha, so I wouldn't pick up Chrome either. Isla, I guess you could pick up Isla if you don't have her already. We have her once from the dorm mission, but if you want to get her triple S quickly, then yeah, she's also another option to pick up on the Selector as well. I picked Bolter for the Selector from my account personally, just to get her closer to triple S. You guys will be getting 3 stages of Paincage instead of 4. Now Paincage will be much quote-unquote faster, and just clearing those Paincage stages will just straight up give you skulls, so you don't have to wait for the end of the week. You don't have to sweat your butt off to get to like the top 30% or whatever, but there will be an external stage that gives you more Paincage skulls for the tryhards if you want, and that gives you like I think a little bit more Paincage skulls, not too much more. The majority of the Paincage skulls will be in here. Also, guild expedition should be back, so do your runs, chat. If you need an active guild, I'm gonna plug in the global guild Odds and Automata. They're always active, they're always doing their guild expeditions. I try to check in and make sure they do. Guild expedition, very important. Get all that, use all that currency. Anyways, thanks for watching. Again, join me on Twitch to get questions answered live and see more guides early. Drop a like if you found this video helpful, dislike if you didn't, subscribe for more guides for future characters. Thank you to my YouTube members and Twitch subscribers. Take care and peace late. Good luck on your Luna pulls.